Well, good morning again. Once again, we have to remind you that we also have cash out, and make sure that you stick with the short code *439#, and then you will be getting a lot of credit into your mobile money account. If I mean credit, I mean money. You'll be getting money. So we'll do the draw at the end of the segment. So we have to encourage you also share our link on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, just in case all of us want to get interactive. It's always important for us to get all the big issues coming up currently. So let me just introduce our guests for the morning. But before I do that, Bwaka Goswe, thank you for joining us. Henry, you're joining us from Kofoed. Yeah. And then also we have Amoda Hamidu joining us from the US. We're grateful. Hamza Junior, the Maestro, good morning. Akasokre, and all of you joining us. Money Ni Money, Imelda Nassar, who will also be joining, and of course, Amama Gold. Now, we all have to discuss a pertinent issue. There have been concerns raised among key observers of Ghana's political scene. And this is emanating from the committee that is looking into the leaked IGP removal tape. We know the key, well, we have to say the antagonist, a former Northern Regional Chair of the ruling party, the NPP, Bugri Nabu, who had said he recorded key individuals, top commissioners of police, of the police service, or senior police officers of the police service, and who now have indicated they're politically aligned with the ruling party. The concern is that going to mean that the security for the 2024 general election is going to be compromised? And how do we avert that? Well, I have here joining us, Malik Basintali is a Deputy Communication Officer of the NDC. Thank you, Malik, for joining us. Good morning.
Thanks for always having me. It feels good to be here.
Okay. Seated next to him is a former chair for the PNC, Bernard Mona. Good morning to you, Bernard.
Morning, Roland.
And then also contesting for the primaries of the MPP for Ibuakwa North. He also speaks for government on governance and security. We have Palgrave Wachidankwa. In private life, he says he's a missionary of God, so serve Jesus Christ, the Savior. Also, he's a politician as well, and of course, he's a chieftain of Ibuakwa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and good morning to you.
Right. Now, let's put the matters into perspective. Monitoring the situation of the committee sittings yesterday was Duke. Duke Mensopoku bring us a wrap-up of activities that will be the precursor for our discussions this morning.
At its hearing on Monday, took the witness statement of Superintendent George Lysander Asare. He told the committee that he is currently a protocol officer at the headquarters of the Ghana Police Service.
Do you admit that your voice is on the tape?
Yes, Mr. Chair, but there is some cut and paste on the audio. But that notwithstanding, the voice in it is mine.
He also indicated to the committee that Bugri Nabu had told a lot of lies and had invented a lot of statements concerning himself and COP George Mensah.
I have Alhaji Bugri Nabu on tape. Everything he came to say here on video in his office, the same office. His relationship with IGP and contracts. 40,000 boots contracts.
My brother, you were very good and said you speak in camera. Have you forgotten yourself? Yes. Ask your very simple question whether you appear before the
Honorable Chair, sorry.
Okay.
Honorable Chair, I'm
all right.
Sorry.
We've had the benefit of a tape on the assumption that it's authentic. The members of the committee will have to internalize that tape, and it is also transcribed and look at it. And that will give us the ideas as to what to do. First of all, do we bring all the stakeholders together with their lawyers for cross-examination and cross-firing to take place? Whilst we listen attentively, and later when they finish, then we'll have our turn.
Duke Mensopoku, TV3 News, Parliament House, Accra.
And so, Palgrave, since you speak for government on governance and security, you have all your assigns according to what the public is indicating, and that could jeopardize security, at least for the opposition for 2024. It also means that trust for the police and other security institutions is at stake. Should we be worried? All the commissioners are for the MPP. They are aligned. Should the other parties contesting, especially the NDC, be worried for 2024?
Roland, a very good morning to you, and very good morning to my colleagues, Bernard and Malik, and to state that you're overstretching the issue. Okay. And let me begin by going into the Ghana Police Service Act and really emphasize the functions of the service. Section 1, and that's Act 350, 1970. Section 1 says that it shall be the duty of the police service to prevent and detect crime, to apprehend offenders, and to maintain public order and safety of persons and property. 2 of Section 1 says that every police officer shall perform such functions as are by law conferred upon a police officer and shall obey all lawful orders and directions in respect of the execution of his service which he may receive from superiors of the police service. The issue that has come up, I think that it's important that we try to neutralize political infiltration of our public institutions. I have stated that the more we try to politicize the various public institutions, then it means that we are not safe. When society gets mad, there are some neutral places where we need to go for sanity. And I state it like this: the judiciary should be a place where, when society gets mad, we go to the judiciary for sanity because they are non-partisan. When society gets mad, we need to be able to go to the security services to ensure that there is serenity and peace, from the Ghana Police Service to the Ghana Armed Forces to the Ghana National Fire Service to the immigration to the customs. All of these arms of the security environment are important for us to ensure that there is safety and serenity. I do not want us to overstretch the issue into the 2024 general election and to politicize it that other contending political parties and other contending political actors are not safe. I don't think so. I think that clearly, if you look at the functions of the police, it's clearly stated out. Very clearly their roles and responsibilities, and even if you go to Section 17, which I can go into it, that talks about the conduct and misconduct of police officers, and even emphasizes the fact that you are not supposed to be politically oriented, because when you come into the office, and I will state that Section 17 of the Police Act talks about misconduct and unsatisfactory service. It says that it shall be a misconduct for a police officer to be absent from duty without leave or reasonable excuse, to be insubordinate, to use without lawful authority any property or facilities provided for the purposes of the police service for some purpose not connected to his official duties, to engage in any activity outside his official duties which is likely to involve him in political controversy, or to lead to his taking improper advantage of his position in the police service, to engage in any gainful occupation outside the police service without the consent of the Inspector General of Police, to become a member or to be a member of a trade union or of any association other than an association authorized by the minister, and herein the minister is the Minister of Interior, having similar objectives, to sleep on duty, to take alcohol and all of that. I think that it's important to put this in perspective, primarily because the police service is isolated of any political colorization.
How is that? We have a top commissioner who came before a committee composed of well-meaning individuals, even an individual who has served as an integral minister in the Ministry of the Interior, who has occupied a key position, Director General Operations. Even at the time that he was Director General Operations, Ayawaso West War Gun happened. I was there. I saw the mayhem that was caused. I saw the bloodbath, literally, that happened. And then in this secret recording, you have a superintendent who mentions Asin North, the 2024 general elections. And then we have the COP who decides to remove a certain IGP just because he's a party person, he's of the UP tradition, he confesses, and literally also says that he's of the MPP. You're saying any neutral or objective person should not be worried? Apart from all you read by sections from the Act of the Ghana Police Service?
I don't think so. You know, to be honest, the IGP, Dr. Dampari, has distinguished himself creditably when the president...
That is why we should be worried, Palgrave.
No. We should not be worried because the IGP is doing what he has to do in accordance to the Act, in accordance to the 1992 Constitution. He's not politically biased to any colorization of the two major political parties in this country. The Ghanaian people have seen his work. They can attest to the fact that he's an objective IGP, he's credible. We should isolate the personalization and colorization of other persons who are in the police service that seek to do politics with their service. I mean, when you go into the service, you are trained to be objective, you are trained to be bipartisan. The rules and regulations are clearly there. And I've even stated that even when you come into public office, either president or even the various arms of government where you serve, the moment you take an oath, you decolorize yourself from your political orientation to take the mandate of the nation.
Certainly, that has not happened.
No, certainly.
All these individuals, they took an oath, but they still have liaison activities with key members of the governing party, the MPP. We know the role that Buguri Nabu played prior to 2016. And then we know the role that he claims he's still playing, being the intermediary to the president for some of these individuals. While he was worried, he again does mention that some of the things that were said to him that he recorded, for example, Asin North, came to pass. The NDC's candidate won. And he says that that bears testimony to the fact that, well, you could use machinations within the service by way of security to either tilt election results.
I disagree with that. You know, electioneering is one based on what you tell the people and based on the electorates who go to exercise their democratic rights and franchise during any electioneering processes. I think that the proposal of wanting to state that machinations can be brought in for one to have a success in an electioneering is not one of a thesis that we should continue. Because the more we propound those theories and those school of thoughts, then it means that none of us is safe in this country. It means that we should not even bother campaigning. It means that we should not even bother sharing out our ideologies and our goals and our philosophies and the objectives of the developmental projects that we seek to bring in the various constituencies and communities where we want to serve. If that is what it means everyone is a puppet. It means that the police service can machinate for one to win an electioneering. How is that possible? There are people that register to be voters. There are people that queue to exercise their democratic rights and franchise. I think that it's a disregard of their efforts in choosing who becomes their leader and in choosing who becomes their representative. If the police service can just do this, I think that there's going to be a lot more investigation that is going to be happening. There's going to be a lot more that is going to come out of this leaked tape. I would have wished that the very beginning of the conversation, especially in Parliament, had been held in camera, because these are very, very sensitive issues, extremely, very, very sensitive, and it's important that as we look at the sensitivity of the issue, we discuss it bipartisanly, and in discussing it bipartisanly, it's also very, very much important that we don't set up some models that becomes dangerous for us in the future as precedents.
Malik, you shouldn't be worried. All the political and state actors should not be worried.
I'm a bit surprised that my brother intends playing a very fair, balanced, innocent communication angle to this particular topic, when all the ingredients in there seek to suggest some ill thoughts, some orchestrations, some mafia projections into the next election by this man who is standing trial before the committee.
It's not standing trial.
I mean, virtually, once he's before there, he's being questioned, he's being interrogated. It may not be a criminal trial, but it's a form of trial. In 2019, and it is not true that the police has no role to play in elections in this country, or whoever wins elections in this country. It's not true. In 2019, on the 31st of January, the by-election at Ayawaso West Wagon, a whole police vehicle led by DSP Azugu, ordered by the National Security Minister of the President with the full blessing of the President himself, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, stormed our candidate's house, Delali, shot spontaneously, shot innocent people who were even working in their shops. I, before my eyes, and I'm glad that you've testified to it, saw someone's bones dripping down. In the end, the NDC had to pull out of the election midpoint. Who caused it? The police service. The SWAT team under the Ghana Police Service caused our withdrawal in that particular election. If we had proceeded, the NDC would have won that seat wholesomely. And so if you sit and think that the police has no affair or has no contribution to whoever wins an election in this country, then you haven't been following elections in this country. And you must be worried because you will soon be an aspirant in an election. Number two, Techima Saf. When collation was done, and the returning officers and the polling agents only needed protection from the police personnel in order to declare the results in favor of Chris, who was the then NDC candidate. What happened? The police rather shot into people, into Chimasaf. In fact, they brought people to their knees. Some were killed, some had to be rushed to the hospital, and then a warped, totally fraud declaration was made there. Who caused it? Again, the security services. Why? In Nigeria, when people were protesting, what happened? You had military personnel, and this has to do with the entire security, the situation, apparatus, shooting, killing someone in that particular election. And then you think that the security agencies in this country have no contribution. If they didn't, a whole COP wouldn't have been telling us that the 2024 elections, a lot is at stake for the ruling party, and that he has been discussing those issues with the General Secretary of the MPP, Justin Kodua. If there were not dire consequences, a whole COP, Alex Mensah, sitting before the committee, wouldn't have sworn every ghost on this homeland and swore by his life. In fact, forbidded God to make John Dramani Mahama president in 2024. He sat there. If you listen to the tape from 1 to the 50th minute, he kept on swearing. He kept on stating in command. He kept on repeating that for John Mahama to be president in this country over his dead body. But you see, this morning,
these are individuals seeking their own self-interest.
Somebody, the COP is not an ordinary individual. And if we do not know who we are speaking about somebody who has risen to the apex of the Ghana Police Service. In fact, from the COP, he could only become IGP or deputy IGP. Aside that, he's ended. And you think that we should take his comments lightly. Look, I think that he should have been charged for treason by now. Because you don't sit down and swear everything, stating emphatically that a multi-party state like Ghana should have only one political party, all because he sat there and said his family belonged to the Dankwa Buzia tradition. He is a known MPP member. All his life he's been an MPP member. And so what? And so what? Are you the will of the people? Do you determine who the people votes for? Do you determine who the people of this country instill power in? And you think that we should sit down and say the security agencies are not political? I think that advice should land at the doorstep of the president, Mr. Akufo-Addo, who a commission issued a report, one, to reprimand a police superior, DSP Azugu, for leading a SWAT team, a bunch of criminals who were in masks to shoot and affect innocent lives. Yet the president sat there lackadaisically and allowed it to go. In fact, the security couple, Colonel Opoku, who led the team and was even supposed to be reassigned, the president instead promoted him and made him a commander because President Akufo-Addo supports violence. He supports, very violent actions of this nature. His all die be die must at all costs be manifested. You issue a word. The commission's report is supposed, even though it is not a committee, a criminal proceeding, the commission's report is supposed to be used as a guide. In 6 months, be implemented by High Court. What did the president do? He poo-pooed it. He wrote, he issued a white paper stating his stance on it, something we had all listened to, something which admission had been clear, all because he supports violence in this land. I feel sad, especially for the junior police officer today, watching us, because their superiors, who are supposed to be fighting for bulletproof vests for them, their superiors, who are supposed to be fighting for, very sophisticated weapons, their superiors, who are supposed to be concerned with they dying in bullion vans and they sacrificing their lives on the streets, rather sit down and all they talk about is that we will help this current government break the 8, and that he has the strategy. He has the mafia tactics. When they brought their mafia to Asennov, and I was there, and I'm surprised that Apargrave didn't mention that. My car was damaged before the police officers.
We also
by
hoodlums
of Wontumi. I had to stand properly and take charge of my life. By the grace of God, I was victorious. No police personnel at that time was ready to save the situation. Hoodlums of Wontumi, the Ashanti Regional Chairman, and the MPP were there vandalizing people's cars. They nearly bent my car. But we stood our grounds. And then all these orchestrations, little did we know that it had to do with this COP, Alex Mensah, who sat there and planned with Bugri Nabu on how they were going to mafia us in their Asennov election. I sit here to ask him, after he swearing by God, and after he planning all those orchestrations and those mafia works, did they win Asennov? He should send a signal down his senses that in this country, before you win an election, the people must bestow power onto you. And by that bestowation, you must sink into what they want. You must give them a clear vision statement, and it is at the backs, on the backs of those statements, that the people will be willing to vote for you. Roland, to learn on this point, there's a critical aspect the committee hasn't unraveled yet.
Which is what, Malik?
Which is the fact that, first of all, Bugri Nabu swore that everything he said on the tape was accurate.
Yes.
Now, in the tape, around the 42nd minute, Bugri Nabu was heard saying that he had taken bundles to President Akufo-Addo and even told them to increase the rest, and said as for him, he doesn't need any money. But if they bring it, he will even top up and give to the big man again. They know what the big man wants. And you can't go to a chief palace without taking something there. Look, you and I need to invoke the powers of the special prosecutor. President Akufo-Addo, for once, must be questioned on this. Why is it that on repeated basis, all corrupt exposés speak about his love for bundles, his love for brown envelopes, to the extent that he was named the mother serpent of corruption? Why? Annals expose. They said when you want to see him, you give him bundles, you give him cash. Why? The cash for seats. They said even when you want to sit by him, you need to pay 200,000, 300,000. Why? Matthias, Alistair Matthias, said he has dealings, the gold for mafia. He has dealings with the president, and then the president is always interested in his share in the bounty. And now Bugri Nabu, who is a close ally, who has unfettered access to the president, has stated that before they lobby him, they need to wet his taste because he has that high love for corruption money. Look, the president must be investigated on this. At least he must answer questions.
To be fair,
I am saying, Roland, look.
If you listen to Bugri Nabu's statement before the committee, he says these meetings were a setup. A setup to evoke these solicitations, these responses from the various antagonists that we find currently before the committee, i.e. the COP, the various officers, even the one who called in, including the two who were present.
Bugri Nabu said he had taken the first tranche of money to the chief's palace.
And I'm saying
that
these
is the
were
president's
setups.
doorsteps. If it was a setup, the president should bring that bundle back. Because in the tape, he said he has already sent the bundle and he's giving the man the brown envelope. If indeed it's a setup today, President Akufo-Addo should return the brown envelope so we give it back to source. And then at least we know that as for the second brown envelope, it hadn't come yet. But the first brown envelope that the president received, he must answer questions as to why he received that corrupt money, as to why he accepted that lobby, because people had come to whet his appetite with what he so desires, and that is brown envelopes filled with money. The president must be asked to account.
At the end of the day, again, if you listen to Bugri Nabu, he says these were just set up dramas to make sure that we have all these individuals come before him, and then he gets to know what the ambitions are. So it's possible there's really no envelope. Now, two, as a politically exposed person, former chair of a political party, the PNC, are you worried that these individuals who have aligned clearly with political parties, i.e. the ruling party especially, you should be worried for the security for 2024 general elections, how free and fair it should be or will be?
Thank you, and good morning to my colleagues who are here. And a special good morning to my big brother, Anthony Gingong. And just to send a signal that he should stop tormenting me, and to also remember that my Momo account is active. That's all I want to tell him this morning.
Do cash out.
No, I'm reminding my brother that my Momo account is
Mr.
active.
Gingong, please send it.
Yes. No, I didn't say he should
This
send
is what we call using public platforms for private gains.
So
Solicitation.
what I just want to launch on this morning is the threat that our democracy finds itself in now. And that as we speak, you know that some people are said to have been on a WhatsApp group and that they were trying to organize a coup. And they are before courts for how many years now?
This is the third year.
This the DCOP
Agozo.
who came and lamented about the powers of politicians in the Ghana Police Service, and that the police service really is nothing but what the politicians want. He indicated the powers of the president and the politician when you have to appoint persons into the police service, and said that if you give them such, and this is in the Constitution, how do you expect the Ghana Police Service to perform its role as a neutral security agency? He pointed out to the truth. In the end, he was implicated because a WhatsApp group has been formed and then they arrested him. And I recall COP Kofi Boakye. In one of the sections that he had, he was talking and said no, he had to hold back because the very things that Agozo, one of his colleagues, had indicated are hindering the progress of the police service. And that when you speak, you are targeted. And because of that, he will not speak. How many times have we not seen police brutalizations? During registration of persons to be on the voters register. And then somebody come and sit down and tell you that, no, police, they will not do anything. Yes, people will go and vote. I have no doubt that people will go and vote. But if on an election day, I am standing for elections, and you come to Sankana where the people are determined that I should win the elections.
Sankana?
Yes. Then all of a sudden, the police come there in their numbers, in their riot gear, and start even firing warning shots. Initially, you know what will happen? People will disperse. They will run for cover. It will take them some considerable time to regroup. Some may not come back at all. And Sankana will be seen as my strong zone. So when they run and they will not come back and vote, even if calm is restored and you open, that people should come and vote, and they get there, only few and limited numbers will come and vote. I would have lost the elections, and you come and tell me that the police did not do anything untoward. That is the kind of attributes that COP George Alex Mensah possesses in full. Go, use the police, intimidate, scatter people, and out of annoyance, as it happened in Ayawaso West Wagon, The NDC, for instance, that were participating, decided to withdraw. So the MPP would have won the elections, courtesy the actions of the police. And so he feels that elections must be smuggled in this manner. I have had many encounters with him. He was the same man who was Greater Accra Police Commander.
You mean COP Mensah?
Yes. He was the Greater Accra Police Commander. When we had notified the police about the Ghana-Togo Solidarity Rally, you remember at Kawukudi?
Yes.
Where I was picked up and thrown at the back of a pickup with a policeman's gun on my head, ready to just pull the trigger. And I had to tell Professor Atuguba that if you don't hear my voice again, I've been shot. What was the crime? No crime. People had notified you more than 11 days for an event, and it was just a rally. This is the attribute. I have seen it. Gani. What COP can do when he was Greater Accra Commander, it affected me. That rally was disorganized. I took the Ghana Police Service to court. You remember? So, when they come and say this, and in the end, he's accusing IGP Dampi of recording or instigating the recordings. Let's assume that IGP did that. It means that IGP is a solid police officer.
Because according to him, he recorded?
Yes, assuming that IGP did that. It means that IGP can foretell that this is what you are going to say. So IGP should be clapped for. That sitting in his corner, he can pick intel about characters like you who want to dampen and break democracy in our country. I just find it so weird that nobody is talking about a threat to democracy. Palgrave is speaking for governance and security in this country.
Yes, he is.
And he doesn't understand what it means for a police officer to say that we should do something that will ensure that a particular political party wins elections, whether the people vote for them or not. That is a coup d'etat.
You didn't hear what I said.
That is a coup d'etat.
Okay.
And so, if you are looking for coup d'etats, and the Ghana Police Service will be denying protesters from going to Bank of Ghana because they fear coup d'etat, COP Alex Mensah is a coup d'etat. As for the president's romanticization with money, the least said about it, I think that he has a romantic relationship with money. Anytime somebody will have to talk, they will talk about the president and his relationship with money and how the president should be given a share.
Well, Bernard,
if it is not true, as we say in our language, there cannot be smoke.
Well, Bernard, I've made emphasis that Bugri Nabu said he created the scenario to be able to get...
Which one?
He gave the president money.
So the situation, the scenario was created in the number 12
He's a security person right here. And Dr. Adam Bona, you take a look at all that has happened, and indeed, you had given us great source of information even before this was made public. And I remember when you first shared this audio with me, you expressed a lot of worry. Now, from all that you pick as intel within the Ghana Police Service, the other security services, and you look at the pronouncements boldly, and then also with a lot of arrogance of the near-retired COP Alex Mensah, and even we're having these witnesses and their statements. You take a look at Superintendent, who also appeared yesterday. Are you worried that there seemed to be a certain infiltration of elements of the ruling party within the police service and the other security agencies, and that could jeopardize security and trust for security going into 2024 general elections?
Well, yes, Roland, good morning. Let me say good morning to my brother, Bernard Mona, Palgrave, my colleague, and the other panelists, and then also to your viewers. Yes, it's sad. You know, I've just seen a video that is published on Ghana Web this morning. This is a video, I don't know whether you've seen it. It's a video involving, they said, I think Superintendent Asari and Bugri Nabu, and you can see in the video, Superintendent Asari is insisting that IGP must go. If not, the MPP will not win the election. And he told Bugri Nabu that IGP must go in June. And this, I think this recording might have been that this recording is done after Asin North elections, because you can see him telling Bugri Nabu, Chief Bugri Nabu, that the police didn't help the party to win the seat at Asin North. And I think he even went further to allege that a certain COP Awuni is an NDC man, and all the Puma members are NDC people, and they were sent to Asin North to help win the seats. And so, looking at what has taken place, and the exposés and the things, the arrogance, the hatred, and the bitterness in these offices, and in fact, this video some of us have just seen, I will say without any shred of doubt in my mind that there are criminals walking in uniform. There are criminals walking in uniform, and I have said that I think some of these people need psychological evaluation. Seriously need psychological evaluation. If you watched their demeanor, the inconsistencies, and probably the flip-flop, and inability to be coherent, and inability to know that when you are given an audio and you transcribe verbatim, you don't do so. Substituting MPP with UP will not pass for a properly transcribed material. And so, Roland, what I will say is that I am surprised at the police council, because this shameful attitude of these officers, or these disgraced officers, actually have indicted the police council. And as we speak, you know that in the audio somewhere they said they indicted the sitting vice president. That even the sitting vice president is not in good talking, or is not in talking relation with the IGP. And I was thinking, I have never seen this before. I said it yesterday on another network. I have never seen this before, where such an activity or such officers have been caught clearly in such commotion, and they are still in uniform undergoing interrogation. I've never seen it before. I stand to be corrected, because usually you are interdicted first.
Okay.
You lose some of your entitlements, you lose certain things, so that you don't also interfere with whatever processes that are taking place, because as a senior police officer, we all know you are entitled to go into certain areas that me, an ordinary person or a junior rank police officer, cannot go to in this country. So for them to still be walking in their uniform and in attending to this committee, but you cannot blame the Parliamentary Select Committee, because this is the legislative arm of government. So it should have been the police council taking an action, but unfortunately that has not been done. So Roland, what I can say is that let's also probably, I've heard your panelists, some actually attempt to bring the president in. So I think sometimes, I would say that the president in this case, these guys kept on repeating that the president is not a listening president. He refused, to remove the IGP, even though he knows the IGP is not going to do the bidding of the MPP. And we had the interior minister who represents who is in charge of the IGP, come out to say the president has no interest to remove the IGP. So I think we need to separate these things, because the moment we put them together, if you are not careful, what will happen is that we will lose the substance. The substance is that these are, criminal elements. Some of these guys are criminal elements, in uniform who wanted to subvert the will of the people. And that will pass for not just treason, but high treason.
Okay.
High treason is different from, treason. So we should be able to separate it. I think that these guys will pass for high treason. If the likes of Dr. Agboduro, the Mapam tape, and others ended up in court, and I must say emphatically again that Dr. Agboduro is facing interdiction as he goes to court every day. And you have these guys who have done what is despicable in uniform, arrogantly put out the issues to make us believe that police administrative matters should be looked at from the angle of political lens. What they did was typical of criminal elements who claim to be politicians in uniform, who are telling us that, Roland, you know what, there are administrative issues that we are not happy with the president. Sorry, with even the president, the vice president, and the IGP. And now it looks like if we are not very careful, we will shift the focus and be concentrating on police administrative matters when the subject matter is how criminal they themselves put out themselves. And you can see some of them said they've been wanting to be IGP since 2017. So probably they plotted to oust Apietu, they plotted to oust Opombuenu, and now the plot is on to oust this IGP.
Okay,
so as
all right.
As I'm concerned, this is what I would want to say.
All right. Now, Palgrave.
I want a question.
No, you'll come to your turn, Bernard. Have patience. This is not Arise.
In fact, we have to arise in situations like this. But I have a question for
There's a
Adam.
public order.
Roland,
We have
go
to.
ahead.
Now, within the corridors of power, just 2 days ago, I spoke to a long-standing professor who teaches security consults for the UN, the US government. That'll be, of course, through the CIA, etc. And he was worried because he's been through a number of African countries and said, if you have some of these key elements who associate with the governing party boldly, then it also means that there's a certain correlation and a deliberate attempt by the government of the day to try to forestall and then also hoodwink everybody in trying to create a certain scenario in terms of the directional outcome of key decision makings like elections. What's the concern within the corridors of government, if there is at all? And how do you intend averting that?
Well, that's an inaccurate assertion from the professor. There is not any intent of government to guide people to have a desired outcome of an election. When I began, the reason why I picked up the Police Act and I picked up Section 17D, 17D says that to engage in any activity outside of his duties, which is likely to involve him in political controversy or to lead to his taking improper advantage of his position in the police service, is a misconduct and an unsatisfactory service. So very clearly, the persons that are heard in the tape have misconducted themselves and have performed themselves in an unsatisfactory manner. In the scheme of things at government, clearly President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is vindicated in this scheme that he is a president for the New Patriotic Party. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is president for the entire Ghanaian people. Which is why if you merit an appointment, he would give that to you. I mean, the IGP clearly, and I've stated that unequivocally on this platform, that the IGP clearly has exercised his duties as mandated by the Act and even mandated by the 1992 Constitution and as mandated by the sitting President of the Republic to ensure that the country is safe and that to ensure that the country is peaceful. We are observing the proceedings that are ongoing, but in our mind, we commend the IGP for his great work that he's doing in this country. And we are in no doubt in our mind that the various institutions that be, the police council should immediately come out to give clearer directions to these persons. And I agree with Dr. Buna that this is in bad taste to our security services. It's important that almost immediately the police council should come out, issue a paper for us to be able to know the directions that they are going to take, especially maybe for those that are still in service. We are aware that George is going to go on retirement because he said he's on leave, and so after that he's going to hand over his apparatus to the Ghana Police Service on the 16th of September. We are aware of that, and so
that will be COP.
COP, yes, COP Alex Mensah, yes. So I think that for us as a government, we are safe in our mind that the sitting IGP, Dr. Dampari, is doing extremely well to the interest of the Ghanaian people, and also in adherence of the peace and safety and security of the country. So the professor, we are not. There's no way we are wanting to create a desired end of an electioneering processes, or even try to get people within the security services to kowtow to what government wants to do. No, government is in isolation of every single thing, and various institutions of government are supposed to adhere to what they must do in this country. And to disagree with some of the points that my other colleagues have made, I mean, I think that trying to bring President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo into some of these conversations and calling the president the mother of all serpents, trying to reference Martin Amidu and calling the president as Romanizing with money and having all of those. I think that we should disassociate ourselves from these comments. I mean, this is the president of the land. We discredit the integrity and discredit the sanctity and discredit the respect and reverence that we must give to that highest office when we continually lambast without evidence. I mean, there's clearly no evidence to the fact that President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo has taken any bundles. I mean, it's just hearsay. There's no evidence to that fact. If there is an evidence to that fact, those that are calling should bring it out for us to be able to know that there are evidence. But there's no evidence to that fact. Once there are no evidence to that fact, it's important that we restrain ourselves from continually lambasting the sitting president of the land, continually calling him names, continually trying to discredit the integrity and the wealth of experience and the level of our own sovereignty as a country. It's important we manage those conversations very well and dispassionately of the issues and the objectivity that it deserves.
At the end of the day, how do we ensure that we agree with government and the way it's managing security on one hand, and then also all come to the table to bring trust for 2024? Just in some few minutes.
Well, first of all, the COP Mensah said that he has a plan towards helping MPP break the 8s. That is a fact. He said again that he is a full member or sympathizer of the MPP, and his family has been MPP from time immemorial. He said again that he has intentions of contesting on the ticket of the MPP, the party he so loves and belongs to. He said again that the MPP can never break the 8 unless they make him, COP Mensah, IGP. Then he said again that the MDC should never be allowed to come into office, and that over his dead body should the MDC assume office as a government in this country. All these things he has said, we tied on to him, and nobody has blamed President Akufo-Addo for his words on the committee. Where we bring in the president is the fact that there's precedence that has guided COP Mensah into making these irresponsible comments. Like one, if the president had penalized DSP Azugu, COP Mensah would have known that this is a man who does not believe in the politicization of our security services. But he left him off the hook. Colonel Opoku was later even promoted. Why? After Techima and South killings, has a single officer been prosecuted on this land? The president has the sole responsibility of ensuring that all these actions are brought to book. The vice president, Dr. Wamia, chairs the police board. Is he telling me that he has been unable to identify the police officers who perpetrated all this violence? And so we are bringing the president in because he has sat down, he has allowed for some of these irresponsible things to happen in the past, And he must be held responsible because these actions have given guidance to these COPs to make comments of this sort. Why? The COP admitted that he had been in conversation with the General Secretary of the MPP. And they had been planning on how they were going to break the 8. And he had cautioned him that if they do not change Dampare, he never said for a second that the president trusted that Dampare was against him. He said the president thinks Dampare is an MPP man and that he sits here. He named the mother of Dampare, and further even stated that Dampare was a Voltairean, and so, I mean, from all indications, Dampare belonged
he said OT.
to the OT region. And later he said Dampare is a Voltairean. He made that clear and said he belonged to the NDC. These are high treasonable comments. And that is why I agree entirely with Dr. Bona that these particular actions should even be taken when these officers are on interdiction. They ought to be interdicted because it's surprising that after appearing before the committee, he leaves there and drives straight to his office. Remember that he superintends over a command. And if he decides to pollute the minds of all these people, then it has dire consequences on our security agencies. Where we finally robe in the president is the fact that monies have been mentioned in this audio. And no matter what it takes, we will go the extra mile of invoking the powers of the special prosecutor. You sit here and you say we haven't provided any evidence. The first video evidence we provided, you media people said he took those monies before assuming office. Now, the one who has brought the case against you, Bugri Nabu, in the tape, emphatically said he took the first tranche of money to see the big man, and that on the second note, he would top up, increase it, make it juicy, and present it to President Akufo-Addo again. If President Akufo-Addo thinks that the monies didn't get to his doorstep, it's incumbent on him to come out and admit and speak to it. Either he disassociates himself or he agrees to it. Why? In Elias Matthias' tape, didn't the president swear every oracle on this land that they were going to sue Al Jazeera?
Yes.
Didn't the president say they were giving them 100 days and that he had no association to those bribes that were taken in that video? Didn't they say it?
We actually
have they gone to court?
Yeah.
Koy Suman, the president's lawyer, has been wallowing on Twitter. Have they gone to court? They threatened your media house, TV3, that they were going to add all of you that you should withdraw. They told you. Have they done anything? I have told you, and Bernard has classified it, that the president has a romantic relationship with brown envelopes of monies, with tokens. The president has changed the Flagstaff
all these
into a
narrations
palace.
and the investigations provide further and better particulars beyond all that Al Jazeera Gold Mafia and all the other ones that have been
but the president needs to step out. No, Roland, I need to explain this. The president needs to step out. He needs to boldly defend himself if he feels it is not true. But so long as he hasn't, we believe, and in the words of Mr. Martin Abidu, that he remains the chief mother serpent of corruption, and he enjoys taking romantic bundles of cash and money from people who want to see him. And it's an irresponsible act, and we think the president must stop that. His name cannot continuously be mentioned.
He said we can't go this route developing the country.
We can't go this route.
No, then you should advise the president to stop collecting bundles.
You can't use allegations, you can't use...
Which one is an allegation?
Now, Bernard,
the president's best friend said, I took the bundles to the man.
Who is the president's
it. Bugri Nabu. He said, I took the money to the man. The man collected it. The man is grateful. The next time you bring the bundle, I will add on and give it to you.
He says it's inappropriate.
If the president thinks it is not right, then he should come and speak. He should come and say, I didn't take the money.
Before I bring in Dr. Adam Bona, just in some few minutes, how do we develop trust within the various institutions? We have the political parties, the CSOs, the media, and even those who are the ordinary voters for 2024, amid all these that are happening? Because you don't know which policeman or security person is protecting you, whether that person is aligned.
First, permit me to speak our language to Adam Bona. Bro, me sagen kati yiri na mineba mara ziriwa. Very good. To wit,
what did you say?
I asked him whether he agrees that chiefs don't tell lies. Chiefs of the North, they don't tell lies. And to that extent, Bugri Nabu will not lie. And he himself said that if he lied, he would die. And he doesn't want to die as a chief because the oath that you swear. You don't swear just to people. You swear to the oracles and everything. And so Buri Nabu will not lie. And Adam Bona just admitted that indeed he has agreed. So Buri Nabu did not lie when he said that he has taken money to the president. And there are several cases of monies that have been sent to the presidency. And so, bro, we did not bring the president in because we love to bring the president in this matter, but because he has a romantic association with money.
How?
And that is what Buri Nabu just re-established in this particular episode.
Absolutely.
According to you.
That is what he re-established. Look, the security expert on the line admits that our chiefs will not lie. Second, look, what are we talking about here? Some people somehow on a tape, on WhatsApp groups, have been put before court. The main suspect, Dr. Frederick McPalm, died in the custody of the police.
Oh, so sad.
You know that, somewhere in March. We're still keeping these people, and today we have people that are organizing coups to overthrow our democracy in a manner that is even more violent.
Where's the coup?
Telling us that no political party should win elections and that they are going to ensure, when they are appointed, that Dampare cannot lead them to ensuring victory. What does that mean? Is that not a coup d'etat on our constitution?
Clear.
Is that not a coup d'etat? So I'm saying that coup d'etats are working free.
Absolutely.
Asari and what's his name? George Mensah are working free.
Free men.
And still hoping to go and contest and take over from Joe Wise.
Can you imagine?
And we are sitting here, and then we are here talking smoothly and nicely, and all of a sudden it is about the IGP is not working well with COP. So who says that in this particular interrogation it is the police service that is under investigation? It is about your uncontrolled desire to want to become IGP. Look, the highest point in the police service is to get to a commissioner of police.
Yes.
Beyond that, any other thing that is added
is
appointment, right? And so you have gotten to the apex of policing, and you are not satisfied. You want to do what? You want to become IGP. In our language,
okay.
To wit, if your enemy's millet is good, and you say that you don't agree that the millet is going to get a bomber harvest, when it's time, he will go and pick his harvest. IGP Dampare is IGP. George Mensah, you will not be IGP. Whatever scheme pain you have, you will go home with it.
Okay. Dr. Bona, as you make your last commentary on this, we also do know that all these are happening within a period where we have the minority also saying that the police seem to be stampeding their rights as enshrined in the Constitution to be able to demonstrate with a lot of technicalities as enshrined within the law, of course, using the Public Order Act, etc. And it's in relation to this Bank of Ghana Occupy protests. How do we put all this together to say that this is what the police is doing to ensure that it wins public trust and that the demonstration should still go on and they should allow people to vent their spleen just because to demonstrate is allowed in the Constitution?
Well, the police, they've got a duty to perform, and the minority and demonstrators also is a cardinal thing bestowed on citizens, the right to demonstrate. It is something that you cannot take that away from us. Be that as may, what I will say is that it is the beauty of democracy. We are not fighting. I don't think the minority and, the demonstrators, those who, let me be honest with you, I would wish that the Bank of Ghana governor resigns. I have to be honest with you because he should tell us where the 60 billion Ghana cedis is when road contractors are waiting to be paid. Why should he be building a $250 million, is it an atomic bomb-proof building we are building? Why should he be spending such amount? So for me, I agree. But probably it is the manner. We must agree that that area is a security zone. Okay. The fear, if you ask me, is that if we are not very careful and miscreants join the good-hearted demonstrators who want to picket and demonstrate for, so that they speak for all of us, those of us who feel that things are not going well, if they join them and there is any rioting, we should remember, we've had riots in the past, before independence. If we are not careful, where we are today, the economy is hard, cost of living is gone up, and that area is a security zone. So if we are not very careful and demonstrators begin to riot, and we are not prepared to counter them, we are going to have a serious situation at hand. And so I will say that the demonstrators, the leaders of the demonstrators, probably should have an amicable resolution to where they are, the areas they are going to use in terms of, demonstrating, so that we don't have a situation at hand. Because if things get out of hand, we are going to be in a lot of distress. So, Roland, that is what I'll add. And also add that the police council, it's a shame that they've been indicted, and as we speak, these criminally minded officers are still in uniform as we speak today. And my brother, what's the name, Palgrave, read the CI 76, a portion of it that says this is, and there are several portions that these guys have breached. Unless, of course, it's an animal farm setup we are, where some animals are more better, or some, others are better than the others.
All right, thank you.
With alacrity. Thank you very much.
Okay. And Malik, just 2 minutes on this demonstration, then what your side feels to be, and then also, of course, Arise Ghana seem to think that the police is hindering them to demonstrate. Just 2 minutes.
You see, the bottom line of this whole BOG issue is that, one, it is a fact that the Bank of Ghana in 2021 alone printed over 44 billion and doled out to the government of Ghana, because the government, under the leadership of Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia, who heads the economic management,
the demonstration and the hindrance,
stated that they did not have money and they needed money. Number two, in 2022, the Bank of Ghana added over 28 billion to them, printing a total of close to 80 billion to the government of the day. Two, it is a fact that the Bank of Ghana has breached Section 32 of the Bank of Ghana's Act. And in all the clauses breached by the Bank of Ghana, the minority, in collaboration with Arise Ghana, intended embarking on a demonstration. Yesterday in court, the court called for an in-camera discussion. And the judge pleaded with both parties to calm down so they get to the bottom of it. Yesterday, the lawyer, Edu Jitamakulu, raised very critical concerns with the procedures that were being used by the Ghana Police Service. And indeed, before the eyes of everyone, it appeared that they had breached a lot of procedures and their application was totally flawed and could not stand the test of time. We only postponed because we cannot be fighting a governor who has breached rule of law in this country. And then we also go out there breaching rule of law by demonstrating. So it's only been rescheduled. It hasn't been cancelled. We've rescheduled it to the 12th of September. No matter how long it takes, Governor Addison must go down together with the President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia, who heads the economic management team. They will go down when their time is due. Dr. Addison's time is due, and immediately he must step down, he must resign. In 2024, when President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia's time is due, constitutionally, they will also go down.
Governance and security spokesman, what do you make of all this?
To be honest,
they say the police is
Roland, I am entirely disappointed in the NDC and entirely disappointed in the minority side of the NDC in Parliament. Because, when we are talking about issues in this country and you want to ensure that the right thing is done, I don't think the first approach should be to hit the street. the NDC is clearly showing the Ghanaian people their character and
But
their
Akufo-Addo
persona.
is the chief of.
I don't think so.
Oh.
I was surprised to have heard that the minority leader is going to be on the street to demonstrate, a former deputy minister for finance.
He cannot demonstrate.
I don't mind his demonstrating, but as a legislator, as part of the arms of government, I think that there are proper channels within which you can be able to engage the processes of a removal of a governor. And we should be very, very mindful and guided in the manner in which we attack public officers. We should be very, very guided. You know, Roland, this country is still an organism that is growing. We should be minded with the precedents that we set. That does not remind us of the yesterdays. We should be extremely guided. I am surprised that the NDC in 2023 is wanting to oust a certain governor who, in accordance to the 1992 Constitution, is appointed, who is ensuring that the fiscal policy of this country is going very well, and they are wanting to oust that governor through a demonstration. I mean, I think that the intellectual capacity of the NDC is gradually becoming very low.
They don't have
They should. I'm not saying that. They
That's what you're
should.
saying.
That's not what
So
I'm
when
saying.
Akufo-Addo was
They should
intellectual capacity
elevate.
was zero.
They should elevate the conversation. You are in Parliament. You have a right to call the governor to come to the floor of the House. You have a right to question the governor intellectually. I think that those are the expectations of the Ghanaian people. As far as that is even my expectation as well, that the NDC side of minority would not want to hit the streets. They would want to invite the governor to come to the floor of the House. Nothing prevents you from doing that.
All right. Bernard, you're very well versed, based on my experience also with you in demonstrations. Times pass, let my vote count. There were all diplomatic processes, etc., to go through all those grievances to make sure objectives are met. But today, Palgrave says, don't demonstrate, use proper channels.
Well, I can appreciate that he's a young man, and therefore he has not followed most of the things that have happened in our history and probably in global affairs. Look, recently, in Mexico, an MP who felt so highly that the minerals resources of Mexico were being privatized so that the nation Mexico, in his opinion, was raped, went to Parliament and stripped himself naked to demonstrate how the resources of Mexico are being taken away by foreign so-called investors. That is demonstration. You're not telling me that that Mexican MP does not know his what about. Number two, the issues at stake is that we admit that this governor of the Bank of Ghana, in fact, normally we should just go beyond the governor. It's the Ministry of Finance. The Minister for Finance has been a colossal disaster in managing the affairs of this country and has infested the Bank of Ghana. Because if the Minister for Finance did not run down the economy, the Bank of Ghana would not be tempted to print in excess of 77 billion for the ministry. And in printing in excess of 77 billion for the Ministry of Finance to use, it means that so much money was created that was chasing few goods and services in town. Do you now see why inflation is up? And people don't understand, because you provided excess liquidity that were not backed by goods and services.
There are processes for which...
Don't worry about processes. If you have backward processes, they are still processes. So in this instance, this Ministry of Finance has led the Bank of Ghana into this deep ditch. As we speak, the Bank of Ghana has run a loss of excess of 60.8 billion. Right? The negative equity simply shows that we have run our reserves down
by 44 billion.
Do you understand? The Bank of Ghana has now lost its capacity as the lender of last resort. Yeah. What that means is that if any of our commercial or development banks are in liquidity crisis, the Bank of Ghana cannot come to their rescue. as a lender of last resort. You sit here, you don't understand the implications, and you say that we should not protest.
He says that because of...
I understand the implications.
I don't protest.
I invite the Bank of Ghana.
Listen, because I said you are too young, let me repeat it. Because if you follow trends, no, but I should understand, you are in the constituency trying to become an MP. So that's why you have lost touch. They issued an ultimatum, brought the issues and said resign. So it is not the first step that people are going on demonstration. Absolutely. It is his failing to resign. That is why people are going
to the floor.
That is why he is refusing. So you are too young. But more important, you are busy trying to win the seat of the deputy minister.
All right. So I have this one from Sampiyali who says that...
Invite him to the floor of the House.
No. Respond.
Okay. So Sampi Ali says, where was Palgrave when Bawumia and his wife insulted President Mahama? And then he also adds, but the whole former Chief Justice even demonstrated over bonds. So what are we talking about? Now, we also have PHK, that Prince Henry Fonkofodria. The plot against the IGP, Dr. Dampare, is becoming real, and I would urge citizens to speak and defend the Constitution. And this one from Triddles. Honestly speaking, if Ghana were to be a serious country, these police officers should have been on interdiction before appearing before the committee. Amoda Hamidu says, I totally agree with the security analyst. The two officers must be interdicted. And then we also have Julius Agahoa and Tahiru from Aswanse. The politicization of security service, most especially the police service, is something the whole country should be worried about. And then also John Pano says, ask the MPP gentlemen when they were in opposition, did they undertake any demonstration? Was there not diplomatic means to resolve issues? And then also, let me encourage you, we have a cash out. Okay, so we have to cash out, and we encourage you always to make sure that you memorize the short code *439#. Now let's do the draw. So the draw is ready. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so Brenda is not ready. Let me just read some messages while Brenda takes her time. Blueprint writes from Isikado Kitime, says the president's appointment to the Supreme Court downward is being motivated solely by the government commitment to the rule of law. Therefore, it is misinformation by JM and NDC to suggest that the government has stacked the court to avoid accountability. Says good morning to Honorable Charles Bissell, he says. And then we also have, can we do the cash out now? I'm waiting. Okay, so we're working on it. So while we work on it, we wait for Brenda, our director. All what these police officers and the recruitment chief in command, Bugri Nabu, are doing is more to be called treason. And that's from Edem, from Tema. We do have more as well coming in. But, well, Seydou Salaga says, don't worry at all when those who have access to the taxes of the poor people live lives of luxury. Seydou from Salaga. And then we have Awudu Kalio. I hope this is not a calculated attempt to fire the IGP. We've been assured by Palgrave, Kalio Manwa, that it's not going to happen. And then Alhaji Hamza Pikfam, in my humble opinion, COP Bensa and the superintendent want to divert the findings and work of the committee. We're taking a break. When we come back, we have cash out for you.
Accra Institute of Technology is a top-ranked private technology university in Ghana. The university offers world-class bachelor's, master's, and PhD degree programs.
and decided to come here. While this place deals with a lot of technology, it's going to make my learning easier, not going to do a lot of paperwork, but more of this IT knowledge, making work faster and then better.
The university has won a number of awards for providing world-class university education locally and internationally.
AIT, the lecturer will make sure that you do your quizzes, you do your assignments, and make sure you get to the top.
AIT, this is where you want to go to university.
Artificial intelligence, creativity and sustainability.